Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Happy Friday to everybody. What I'm about to play is a clip from the Colin Cowherd show. It's about a minute and a half long, and it's Joel Klatt and Colin Cowherd talking about Notre Dame and how much of a juggernaut they are this year. Now, I want to say before this starts, this is not a Notre Dame hate video, okay? So don't take it as such. They're taking jabs at Clemson in this. And I just want to point out the hypocrisy with this, and then you'll see after the clip's over, I'll go through my entire talking points on this. Listen, Notre Dame, you are an ACC team. Don't pretend like you're not. You play 5 ACC games, and that's it. Just listen to these jokers. Listen to how much Colin Cowherd hates Clemson. It's almost laughable.
This guy's amazing.
Okay, hold on. So I watched Notre Dame. Now, I predicted they would throttle Stanford. I got to tell you something. Notre Dame fans hate me. This is the best Notre Dame team. It is the best Notre Dame team since Lou Holtz. I'm not joking.
This is a better Notre Dame team than went to the national championship.
Absolutely better. Not even close.
And this is a serious contender for the playoff.
Yet
no question.
No. By the way, Stanford's a good team. At the end of that game, they wore Stanford out.
Yeah. And you can say that, listen, back-to-back road games against ranked opponents, Stanford was going to be wore out, but Notre Dame did that. Now, here's the one thing that the fact that Brian Kelly went to Ian Book is a huge upgrade for them. Do you know the first 3 games, they scored 70 total points, and in their last 2, they've scored over 90?
No.
They're so much more explosive on offense because they can throw it.
Watch Notre Dame's size up front.
Yeah.
They look like Alabama. They look like Auburn. They look like Ohio State. They are big and physical.
I'm concerned for them for one reason.
Why?
Their leader up front, Alex Bars, is done for the season. He's a guard. He's a captain. He's played as a starter and parts of over the last 3 seasons.
A guard? You're worried about that?
Well, think about what this team is now. They're still a run-first team.
Look at this
Dexter
kid.
Williams, by the way, ran for over 160 yards. They're at Virginia Tech this weekend, a Virginia Tech team that had 600 yards put on them against Old Dominion. They've got them. They got Northwestern on the road, Southern Cal on the road. They've also got 2 neutral site games. This is an oddity now. 2 neutral site games. They're going to play at Yankee Stadium against Syracuse. They're also going to play at Qualcomm down here in San Diego against Navy, which is a really interesting game. And then they've only got 2 home games remaining.
You and I are not
imminently winnable.
No, you and I are not fanboys for Notre Dame. Notre Dame fans hate me. I told a friend of mine, USC fan, I said, they're going to throttle USC. They're going to come out to the Coliseum and throttle them.
Probably.
When I watch them defensively, Michigan's got a good team. For that first half of that game, they were grabbing and throwing Michigan over the field. And Michigan's a real football team. They're not great, but they're a good football team.
This is a team that is significantly better than the offensive team that went to the BCS National Championship, and they're better on the defensive side as well. I fully agree with you, and now we have to start the conversation, at least in part, Colin, about which 2 conferences are going to get left out. Because Notre Dame, as an undefeated, is going. And as a
you're right.
one
So
team,
Alabama's in, Notre Dame would be in. Ohio State Ohio State doesn't play Wisconsin, do they yet?
no, they would face them potentially in a
Okay, that'd be the title game, and I think they beat them. Just say this, Bama, I know it's early, but in college it's not. Once you get through the meat of your schedule, it isn't that early. To me, what my eyes are telling me, the teams I've seen are Alabama, Oklahoma, Ohio State, and Notre Dame. I can live with that. That would be, finally, we get out of this like Clemson, Bama thing. And I got to tell you something. When you watch Notre Dame play, watch them up front.
Let's just put it to you this way.
Okay.
If Notre Dame and Clemson both go undefeated, I'd take Notre Dame.
So would I. Better schedule.
Way better schedule.
Way better schedule.
Way better schedule.
Okay, I'd take Notre Dame in a heartbeat.
Notre Dame is looking really good. By the way.
All right, now first things first here. This is not a Notre Dame hating video. So if you're a Notre Dame fan and you're already upset that I'm making this video, too bad. Listen to the rest of the video. This is more about Joel Klatt and Colin Cowherd, 2 of the dumbest people in all of sports broadcasting. And sports information, if that's what you want to call it. I mean, listen, have you ever seen people hate Clemson more than these 2 jokers? All right, so listen, all the points you just heard about Notre Dame having a better schedule than Clemson, we'll get into that in a second. Notre Dame being so great, and of course, Colin Cowherd's comments there. We can finally get out of this Alabama and Clemson thing, but he picked Alabama, so basically what he's saying is, we can finally get out of this Clemson thing. Colin Cowherd hates Clemson. I don't know why. And I'm not saying that Notre Dame is not worthy of a playoff spot if they go undefeated. But let's just compare Clemson's schedule to Notre Dame's schedule and what they've done so far this year. We all know what Clemson's done. We all know the schedule they play. The ACC is down. Obviously, Florida State being in Clemson's division is not good. Louisville's not good. We thought Boston College was going to be a lot better than they were. We thought Wake Forest was going to be a lot better than they were. Syracuse is probably the best other team in the division. Maybe NC State. We'll see about that. NC State's still undefeated. We don't know a lot about them yet because they haven't played anybody yet. But let's look at Notre Dame. Let's look at Notre Dame. Let's look at how much tougher Notre Dame's schedule is. By the way, Notre Dame is a de facto ACC team. They play 5 ACC teams on their schedule, and not only that, they just got so lucky this year, they drew the 5 worst teams, or 5 of the worst teams in the ACC to play this year. So let's look at what Notre Dame's done so far this year. All right, so Michigan, week 1, we all saw that, right? So they won by 7 points at home. Since then, Michigan has proved not to be very good, just like we all thought they weren't. Michigan has had struggle wins or losses, one loss anyway, against Notre Dame, but a struggle win last week at Northwestern. Northwestern is a 2-3 football team. Northwestern got drubbed by Duke at home. What? Michigan goes down on Northwestern, has to come back from 17 points down for a miracle win to beat Northwestern. Michigan, not a good win. Sorry. Oh, this one's good. Week 2, Notre Dame and Ball State. A whopping 6-point victory there. No, sorry, 7-point victory. Wait, what is that? 24-16. I don't know how to add. 4 and 4, that's 8. All right. They beat Ball State by a whopping 8 points. Oh, that's impressive, Notre Dame. I got to hand you that one. Vanderbilt, one of the lowest tier teams in the SEC, I would add. At least Clemson, when they schedule SEC teams, they schedule SEC West teams that are good, a la Auburn, 5 out of the last 6 years or 10 years. And, of course, Georgia twice and Texas A&M this year and then next year. But Vanderbilt, oh, they beat them by a whopping 5 points in Notre Dame. That's impressive, big-time impressive win by Notre Dame there. So now let's look what they have left on their schedule. A bunch of lower-tier ACC teams. So we have Wake Forest. Wake Forest we thought was going to be good, but guess what? They fired the defensive coordinator 5 games into the season. Maybe it was 4 games. I don't know. That just shows you how bad their defense is. And let's see. Stanford. Ooh, impressive win. Top 10 Stanford. Should Stanford have been a top 10 team? Stanford almost lost to San Diego State at home. And then, of course, everybody knows Oregon beat the crap out of Stanford and Oregon. And the only reason they won that game is because the head coach blew a time management call there. All right, so Stanford, okay, yeah. That's probably the best win on your schedule so far. Still not a great win. Let's see. Now they go to Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech lost to Old Dominion. Virginia Tech still might beat them. Even if they don't, even if Notre Dame wins the game like they probably should, not a terribly impressive win in the grand scheme of things. Then they play Pitt. Pitt's terrible. Pitt is one of the worst teams in the ACC without a doubt. Then they play Navy. Ooh, big one there. Navy, that's a real juggernaut. Let's see here. Then Northwestern. We already talked about Northwestern. Northwestern 1-3 or what, 2-3. Northwestern just not any good. So I don't know how you can call that a good one if they win that game. Then they play Florida State. Florida State, we all know the biggest disappointment in all of the ACC. Now, before the season, this looked like it might have been a good game, but you can't call Florida State a good win now, can you? I mean, if you lose that game, you shouldn't make the playoffs for the next 18 years, let alone this year. Then they play Syracuse. Now, Syracuse might be the best team on that schedule outside of Stanford, and they might lose that game, but let's see. I would say that's not considered a great win for Clemson, and it's surely not considered a great win for Notre Dame if they beat them. It is a good win, though. Then they play USC. And when I say USC, I mean the real USC, the one out there in California, the University of Southern California. University of Southern California is big in name, but not in football play right now. Everybody knows USC is no good, and that can't really be considered a good win either. So somebody explain to me. Now, I'm not the one going out on the fence and saying that Clemson's got some kind of crazy tough schedule this year, okay? But to pretend as if Notre Dame does, I mean, Michigan, Ball State, Vandy, Wake, Stanford, Virginia Tech, Pitt, Navy, Northwestern, Florida State, Syracuse, and USC. Not tougher than Clemson's. Oh, and by the way, if Clemson does go undefeated, that means they will have had to won the ACC, which means they will have beat everybody in the Atlantic as well as Texas A&M, and then most likely Miami in an ACC championship game. Sorry, Notre Dame, you need to join a conference. If you go undefeated, anybody that thinks that Clemson should be left out ahead of Notre Dame, I don't know what you're smoking. I don't know what you're watching. They are an ACC team, even though they don't want to act like they are. Have a great day. Pigskin Pete, checking out.